The topic for today is the future of branch networking: smarter, safer, simpler. But a subtopic, which you'll see a theme throughout this, is the concept of convergence. It's a very important theme. It's a very important theme for the Fortinet ecosystem. Today you're going to have Chuck Long as your presenter. He is our senior solutions engineer, one of our more experienced solutions engineers. Many of you may have worked with Chuck on analyzing some opportunities. So you know Chuck knows his stuff. Chuck will go into a lot of detail. We're going to save the questions till the end of the webinar. Your lines will be muted. All attendee lines will be muted during the webinar. But we do have a question window that you can enter any questions into. As you hear Chuck's presentation, if questions come to mind, just please go ahead and enter those questions into the question window, and we will address those when Chuck has finished his presentation. After the Q&A session, we'll have a very brief company update. I hope a lot of you are planning to go to Channel Partners next week. AireSpring will be at Channel Partners. We'll be exhibiting, and we'll be demoing one of the products Chuck is going to cover here, air control. We invite everybody to come to our booth for a demo of air control, and we'll cover that in addition to the Fortinet products that we're going to cover for switches and SD branch. So let's see how we're doing. Well, the numbers are getting up there. In the interest of time, Chuck, I think we're going to get started. So let me move the slides here. So the agenda today, we're going to cover the evolution of branch networking and the reasons for strengthening security with SD branch, the key components that we offer today with our partnership with Fortinet that help you do just that. And we'll go into more details about our managed SD branch solution, which is powered by Fortinet. Then we'll touch on air control, our IT service management platform. It's AI-driven, cloud-based, and Chuck will touch on that and about the APIs that we have built to go to all the different systems that we sell and that you and your clients depend on. We're going to cover a case study, then we're going to do the brief update on company news. So with that being said, I'm going to cover a little bit of background to set the tone here. Gartner. You all know who Gartner is, and Gartner does a lot of enterprise networking roadmaps, strategic roadmaps for enterprise networking. And what these do is they outline the key trends and recommendations that they provide to organizations that are evolving their network strategies. You know, what you need to do for the next 3 to 5 years, whatever the timeline is. Now, the report emphasizes three major things. One, the growing importance of AI-driven automation. And two, as we all know, AI is everywhere. Everyone's talking about AI. Let me just mention a little more there. And AI, not only is AI a big power user, it's also a big consumption of bandwidth. You need connectivity, bigger, better performing connectivity. So Gartner talks about that as well, the need for robust, high-performance connectivity to support all these emerging technologies. This is covered in the report as well. And the other thing they talk about is the convergence of networking security. And that is primarily for our world seen through frameworks like Secure Access Service Edge, SASE. And that is viewed as the on-ramp to the convergence that we are seeing today. So one of the predictions they make in the report is by the end of 2020, over 20% of mid-sized and large organizations will have an integrated strategy worked out, and that's spanning their security, the networking, workforce and branch office transformation. Again, preparing for that, lowering that on-ramp, if you will, the bar to adoption of SASE. So that's really key with your targeting of new accounts and the clients you're already working with. You can expect to see this driving their inquiries and their need for more security, bigger bandwidth, and explain the AI automation tools they're adopting. Now, a lot of our security pieces do have AI in them. So an additional trend they're talking about will be, again, the AI-assisted and more tightly integrated security across the LAN, the data center, and the WAN domains. Now, the time frame for that is generally, I think they're giving about 5 years. But 65% of SD-WAN purchases will be part of a single vendor SASE offering, is what they're predicting. And that's up from about 20% this year. So, organizations really need to start including SASE solutions in their budgets. It's something you can advise your clients on. So now, in addition to what Gartner says, another thing that's come out that they also added is security is now viewed as a business risk. And this is really important. It's no longer considered to be IT's problem. There have been so many ransomware attacks, denial of service attacks, which have negatively impacted businesses, and some businesses, smaller ones, never recovered from. They now recognize this is not an IT problem, it is a business problem. And that's very important because even your line of business managers, your CFOs that you may interact with your accounts, they're going to be up to date on this and they're going to take it more seriously when you get those conversations started. Another organization which is really well respected is Enterprise Strategy Group. Now they focus, or ESG, they focus solely on cybersecurity and IT research. That's the advisory, how their advisory firm is designed. And then you have ISA. Any security professional out there is probably a member of ISA, and they should be, because ISA stands for Information Systems Security Association. And it's a global organization. It's dedicated to advancing cybersecurity professionals by providing networking opportunities and additional resources, industry insights, etc. So these two organizations teamed up, and they show that 65% of security professionals cite operational efficiencies that they realize as a result of these security and IT teams working together to reduce that vendor sprawl. Vendor consolidation alone has increased efficiencies. So again, more support for that one vendor solution. And then last but not least, you have IDC here, who does cover a lot about AI. And they, as you can see, they predict AI-enabled automation will ensure consistent digital infrastructure configuration, performance cost, and security by reducing the need for human operations intervention. Not getting rid of people, helping people. People can be things being more efficient. So they're predicting a 70% improvement, which is pretty phenomenal. So I think with that, excuse me, let me go back one. I'm going to turn it over to Chuck, and Chuck, I'm going to make you the presenter.
Okay.
And let you take it from here.
Alrighty. Alrighty. Well, hi there, AireSpring Land. How we doing out there? Chuck Long, Senior Solutions Engineer. And today in the presentation, going to be a little technical as typical with Chuck, but more going to talk about the LAN edge and that overall market. And thank you, Ellen, for that wonderful marketing update from Gardner of getting a little bit more into detail about what you have to sell out there. But also I need to educate you on terms that you're going to multi-gig, network access control. These are terms we're going to look at, plus a lot more that the edge is evolving. It keeps evolving, it makes it interesting. But at first, when we look at the network secure LAN edge, what's it made of? You got to be more secure. Everything has to be secure now that comes in and out of the network, no matter how it gets in and out of the network. So we have our next generation firewall we know about. Now today we're going to look at the wireline and wireless connections coming in from the local area network, the LAN side, and how they get secured. But we're also, there it is. Oh, I went too far there. Sorry about that. We have to do it a lot smarter because we have to watch everything that is coming on and off the network. So you're going to see stuff like network access control. Even before this device touches the switch or thinks about getting an IP address from this network, software is going to come and ask them, who are they? Why are you here? You're not here at the right time. This type of stuff in an intelligent manner, then giving them access in there. So we got to be smarter, but we also got to be, by doing the more secure, more smarter, we got to make it easier for the human to understand and use, because it's a typical IT dilemma we've had since 40 years ago, Ellen. Chuck, can you do it at half the price, twice the speed, and make it easier for everybody? It hasn't changed. Here we are doing it. We're going to do that, make it easier to purchase, deploy, secure, and manage through artificial intelligence, through a single vendor solution for this. So there are no security silos, so that all the equipment that's being secured on this secure edge land edge is all being looked at the same pool of data, so that everybody knows on the network when things come on and off. So that's the key to having that visibility, but you got to make it easier. You got to have that AI so that you can't have a human looking at all that information and making 2 or 3 minutes. This stuff happens in milliseconds, as they say. So it has to be more secure, smarter, simpler, this case here, easier. And no matter where we apply it at. Now, we're traditionally at the branch and campus level, but if you do need to go into the data center level, we do have access to those high-end Fortinet products. If you need it, of course, cost goes up, but that's part of that playing field. And you're going to see terms like thin edges coming out as we on-ramp up to SASE later on this year. These are little devices that just need to talk to the cloud. So the terminology I want you to be familiar with, but once again, we're going to be concentrating today on the branch, maybe a little campus environment as we show our examples. Now, next generation networks came from the MPLS hub and spoke. We evolved into SD-WAN where we didn't have to wait for those loops. We just get a DIA and we could interconnect and still have that same security. But then all the hosts moved up into the cloud. So as we evolved on how we're using the networks, where we're getting on and off at, and where are those applications going? Are they cloud-based? Are they a local server at the hub? Or is it a hybrid interaction? These all have to be visible. Security 101, I have to see everything. So I know when something bad is going to happen or is happening. So visibility, whether it's at a BYOD device coming through an access point or remote zero trust customer coming in from the edge into the network, have to see when they come on, when they go off, what they did, what they used, when they were there. That old thing, their basketball coach, tell me what flavor of bubble gum he's chewing as you're watching him type scenario. Security, big thing on Ellen's part there. It is a business risk now. It's not an IT problem. We can't talk to each other. We can't do business. We can't transfer files or share teams, can't do business. Whether you're remote, on a boat, in an office, behind a desk, doesn't matter, has to be secure. But I usually get them in 3 to 5 year contracts, so I got to make sure what I'm buying in 2025 is going to be working fine in 2028. It's got to be scalable. That's where your AireSpring Solutions engineering team comes in, looks down the road in the future. How much this are you going to be expanding? You're getting a lot of takeovers and buyouts of companies, adding new on, how fast it is to ramp up and deploy. And then how fast is it to get it turned up after they do the orders, all that kind of stuff, making sure it scales. And no matter what I'm getting, making sure it's working my value of performance, that I am getting a gig on that AT&T ABF with the SD-WAN, those type of things. Those are all being measured and watched, guaranteed, looked at. Why? By a management system that has what single pane of glass. Watching the last mile remediation and proactive using AI. No, we don't have to bother that end user. We know there's a power outage there. That's why that unit's down. Don't send a chicken little email out to everybody. That's standard service here at AireSpring. And of course, as I led into automation, humans can't watch this stuff, folks. It's going too fast, because one of the terms I'm going to be covering with you today is the wonderful world of multi-gig as we go in there. But before we go there, I just love this animated screen. I had to have it. Is when you go out and you talk to your land edge customers, or they're talking to things about you, hey, do you guys sell those access points, or can I get those switches from you? You should also be talking about those other devices in that requirement list. Layer 7 security. I love that. It's 1 through 7. It's all got to be secure. Using the SD-WAN over the last mile remediation is a given now. it's just, you just don't buy one loop and stick it up unless you have to, because you know if it goes down, that part of the network is down. Can't have that. And whether they're coming in over wireless or a switch connection, and I would think most of you are like me, maybe, well, I do carry a Cat5 cable because I am a nerd, but most of you out there use the access point at home. Same thing in the office. We're seeing a lot of people taking over offices, not using the Cat5 cabling. Everybody comes in through the access point. That's where all the security is at, the network access is at. We know when you came, when you left, what you did, that type. And of course, speaking of that network access, and of course, whether that's going Wi-Fi wireless or 5G cellular for wide area, all that has to be watched and be secured. Convergence of the networks and the security teams as well, watching all those six devices or types of devices coming in, making sure that it's secure and it's working right. But it's got to be done with reduced complexity through automation. Why? We're there through automation to make that IT manager and their team better than they are today, keeping up with the times so they look good in front of their manager, and that goes up the chain and everybody looks good in front of everybody. It's what we want. So let's take a deeper dive into the SD branch. This is not so much about Chuck gonna quote RFCs, but who the players are terminology wise when you go to sell in this environment. SD-WAN, software defined wide area networking. Been around at AireSpring since 2017. Last mile remediation. I buy fiber, I buy broadband, back it up with Starlink. That place is going to stay up and run as long as it has power. The links go up and down. Multi-carrier access coming in, diversity at media level, fiber, broadband versus wireless on that, as well as different carriers. As long as it stays up and running through the SD-WAN connection to our Fortinets, we don't care who they are down there. We're agnostic. We know all that. Good to go. But on the secure edge LAN part of this SD branch, so the firewall's got the SD-WAN taking care of that security out to the internet. But on the LAN side, we've got some players. And these players would be your 40 switches and your 40 access points. Now, they use software called FortiNAC, 40 Network Access Control, to identify users, contractors, guests, corporate, light switches, door openers, anything IoT, that if they ain't supposed to be on the network, in other words, if you're not on the backstage list, you ain't coming backstage. End of story. And everybody's network's backstage, right? Can't have it. So you have those players there. So you're going to have customers asking you about that. Now, as you can see here, the wonderful value chain that Fortinet has from the user going left to right, they go through the network access, through a switch or access point, through the firewall, out to the policies and areas they're supposed to go when they're supposed to go. There's no guessing here. We can watch that trend analysis. You're watching that with FortiManager, FortiAnalyzer, all through Air Control in real time if you want, or if you just want to get the monthly updates and the reports. That's all part of that management package, part of our managed service that we have. And both Air Control ties to FortiManager and Analyzer, as Ellen was saying, through our private APIs at the colos that we have them at. So that's totally secure, as you know, with our SOC 2 approval there as well. So all the thing is secure, everything is running, and that gives a wonderful digital experience monitoring. DEM, you might hear that acronym come out from, as they say, soup to nuts, or from user to application, from application back to user. We know the flow, we know where it's going, how it's getting there, when they're doing it, when they're not, how much they're using, all done. Now, let's take a brief look at the firewalls. And this is kind of like your update, what's coming out with Fortinet this year. You know, as we have 40 experts here. I myself go through all the Fortinet sales training across the board. We have access to everything Fortinet sales. So if you don't see it on our rate sheet, don't be afraid to ask your channel manager, get a hold of solutions engineer. We'll try to find the proper solution for you. But as you can see here coming out, Fortinet's going G this year, Rev G hardware. coming out. Remember, Fortinet makes their own hardware coming out. A lot of the ones, the 40F, the 60F, the 80F, been around. The 70G came out during the pandemic. The new kid on the block I like is the 90G. I'll be going into a little more detail on it. But these are your firewalls, your next generation firewalls, the best firewalls I think out there. Why? Because they got 40 labs behind them. 0-day attack, everybody looks for 40 labs. Why? Solve our problem. How do we get the signature field that everybody else is going to use? So you got your perimeter protection, your secure SD-WAN. It's part of the secure SD-WAN branch, obviously. And whether it's operational technology or IoT devices, doesn't matter with Fortinet. They lead the industry in that. If you do have any OT operational where it's all machines talking to machines, get a hold of the solutions engineering team. We'll get that good set up for you. So there's the players and some of their rates, as you can see. Where we're going to spend a little bit more time in, though, is on the edge side or the LAN side, and that is with switches and access points. Now, many of you have probably already been selling switches out there. It's going to be a little redundant. For those that are new to the switch world, Fortinet has a wide variety of switches. You don't usually think of Fortinet when you think of switches. Well, now you should, because that comes a part of that secure coverage by one dome, as you might want to say, or one secure silo. You don't have multiple where you got a Fortinet with a Cisco switch with a Ubiquity access point. It sounds like one of my competitors up north or whatever they are, just all over the place, holes everywhere. But here with Fortinet, their switches, when you read a 124F FPoE, that means it has 24 access ports and also 4 ports for uplink. In this case, the 124 has 24 gig E ports that come with PoE plus, and I'll cover that in a little bit, as well as 4 10 gig E ports for uplinking to other switches or the firewalls to get out of the network. So as you go out to sell switches, the things you want to ask is how many ports do they need, and the power over Ethernet or PoE that they need for each one of those devices. Because going forward this year, you're going to see a lot of access points, Wi-Fi access points like you have at home, but in the office, these are taking care of like 70 to 100 people. They use a lot of power, and they usually get it from a PoE switch because they're up in the ceiling, and the Ethernet cord that connects them to the switch also provides power. Therefore, I can put them anywhere without power, right? So we want to make sure we know the power, what interfaces. Switch throughput anymore, most of these switches are what they call wire rate. All the ports can run at full blast all day long, in and out, not drop anything, right? But you do want to mention that. And then, of course, as you go up in size, there's the 48 with the 4 10 gig links as well. So don't forget your PoE and how many ports and all that, because what you really want to get in and selling is the Wi-Fi access. Why? That's where 85% of the network users come on, from what I've been reading at the edge, is through the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi stands for wireless fidelity, believe it or not. And Wi-Fi has a ton of acronyms. 802.3ax with 4 MIMOs running at 5 gigahertz. Okay, Chuck, what's that in English? Well, this runs really fast. It's got 2 antennas that has 3 radio stations that all go at different speeds. So when you look at Wi-Fi, you can see here in the 231Gs, and we're already selling these. These are 802.311ax. That's Wi-Fi 6E. It has 2 MIMOs, meaning it has 2 antennas, 4 internal, and I'm showing the external ones here, that can run 3 different radio stations at 2 gig, 5 gig, and 6 gig, and they have different bandwidth rates, and it's used indoor. Done. Okay, so as you compare these two, you're going to see here the 4G, it runs a lot faster. Why? It's got more antennas than the 231G. Got more antennas, can go faster, talk to more people. Very simple physics of it. But the nice thing about it here is you're now seeing multi-gig devices. If you look here, especially right here, you're now seeing it has a port that runs 1 gig or 2.5 gig. And this is what they call multi-gig interface. It's 802.11bz for the technical people. What does that mean? You're now being able to run where you could only run 1 gig over your cabling. Well, with this device and the proper Fortinet switch, you can now double 2.5 times the speed you have today by just changing the access points and the switch. That is a great opportunity for upselling. Come in providing Wi-Fi 6E. You need bigger 2.5 gig. We can swap that switch. So you can see how that can cannonball right down through the firewall and even more WAN material. So as we go forward, we're going to talk about multi-gig now in the sense that with Fortinet, they've got 2 new products, of course, the 90G firewall, but the new 40 switch 110G that we'll be selling this year is for those multi-gig people that have the bigger access points, who need the more power. And I often call this an intelligent power strip, because if you look at the power this thing has, you have these ports here that are run from 10 meg up to 2.5 gig over Cat5e cabling, while providing 15 or 30 watts per port to power something up. And then over here at the 5 gig ports, these two here, they can provide up to 60 watts per port for those very large Wi-Fi 7 adapters, access points out there. And then you have your 10 gig uplinks there. And then down below here at the FortiGate 90G, we saw that in the previous screen. This is the new firewall they got coming out. Incredible that it's about the same size, I think, about a 60F, but now it comes with multimedia 10 gig copper or fiber and gig E. And why I wanted to bring this up, and I asked Ellen if I could put this in the presentation, was we're now seeing a lot of our broadband vendors, Astound, Comcast, offering you to sell 1.25 gig broadband. That's 1,250 meg per second. That's not a gig E interface. That's a 10 gig interface running 10 gig copper that fits perfectly into the FortiGate 90G. So you can see that if you, going forward, you're going to see these multi-gig rates, making sure you have the proper hardware to terminate those newer high-speed broadbands, as well as those new higher speed access points that need the power. That solution solved here with the AireSpring FortiGate Fortinet solution. Now, we saw the players, we got an update, but let's look at the game plan. So when you go out to sell the AireSpring Fortinet SD secure branch with the secure land edge, you have experts at the MSSP level. So you got the expert coaching team up there. In our portfolio, we have the SD-WAN. AireSpring knows SD-WAN better than most people, if not if all. We have the best next generation firewall coming off. We got some of the top, if not the best switches in Wi-Fi on the team. You put them all together with a fully managed air control with FortiManager, FortiAnalyzer, creating all that, watching everything, creating the reports and the management with the wireless WAN capabilities of AireSpring, and our deployment schedules, zero touch deployment, weekly meetings, fully managed solutions engineering watching. That's a tough team to beat. And that is our secure branch. So I often tell you, when you go out to sell, this slide here might be your beginning sell to show who all the players they have behind them by just signing up monthly and getting a contract, or not monthly, I should say, on a 3-year contract with us. That's all the stuff they get with a managed service with AireSpring and the Fortinet secure LAN. Now, speaking of air control, SD branch solution. And why did it not? Did you take it? Oh, wait, here you go. Why did it not? There it is. Don't forget air control, top IT service management platform. Yes, you can get all that nerd stuff Chuck was talking about digging in, but at the same time, in the same pane of glass, where's my order at? Where were the notes from last week's meeting we had with AireSpring about how many access points and when they were going to ship? That's all in there. And of course, the bills are in there. You're gonna, we all got to make a living. But at the same time, your services. Where's my inventory of everything I bought from AireSpring since I've been with them? Go under services, click the site, bang, the history's right there. So for the IT director who's got his technical people and his support commercial people, they're all going to the same pane of glass, using it, getting the information they need in a timely manner, and it's the modern way to do business. As I said, single pane of glass, global looking, look up, everything's green, we're happy. I could click on the node and drill down. By all means, Channel Partners Network, going to be doing detailed demos. Make sure you check it out. SD-WAN, knowing how much, what IP addresses are using, how much bandwidth and what information, or as far as what applications they're using or how much protocol they're using in different sites, as well as their bandwidth across the board. And the key here, like this one I took a shot here, this is from a real retail store we do, and they have the whole land. They have the firewalls, the access points, the switches and the branch and the gateway and all that. They love it just because they're all looking at the same GUI. It's very critical for their own internal use like that. And then, of course, I have to, because I'm a voice guy at heart. This is actually one of our voice customers, banking customers, that they're actually down here on the bottom screen. That's actually AirPBX voice talking over, and that's air control getting this information. I believe that's right there is from FortiManager, I believe, to show the bandwidth that it's using, and everything's looking fine. So you can get that detail that you need, whether you're a banking customer, you know, all the vertical markets we play in, medical, logistics, finance, education, all the above, and even more, and of course, retail as well. And then speaking of case studies, we're going to look at one of our biggest Fortinet users. It's a very large book retailer. Yes, people like me still read books, go to the bookstore, hard copy, sit on the beach, read, you know, all that. They came to us, they're nationwide, over 243 locations, second largest. They were tired of all the many phone bills, many vendors, many consultants, many this, many that. They wanted one throat to choke, as they would say. The challenges were the convergence challenge. How do I keep the network running, because my business is running on it at all the stores, while keeping it totally secure, because I have access points out there, and anybody with a cell phone can possibly get to it, but don't have the right security, these type of things. At the same time, on the voice side, they're getting rid of the legacy phone clipping, going to UCAS, all that good stuff there, getting rid of the old TDM. Of course, solution was my team, solutions engineer team that I'm on, sent out our VP, talked to them, listen, and came back and said, look, you're using FortiGates, so you come to us with the FortiGates. We'll merge over your 40 switches and access points, which we have over the last 2 years. So it's all there. We'll put in those over 700 UCAS seats, watch it from all one pane of glass, one bill, sub-billing for the children if you want for each store if they needed to be. And the results is everybody's happy, everybody looks great. We've saved them money by doing this and converging it, and quite happy. And of course, being an engineer, I got to show one of Melvin Frederick's great Visios, as we call them. And as we've been talking today in this whole network, I've been talking about this right over in this area here, the edge, where we have the UCAS voice and Wi-Fi access coming in to a 40 switch, providing PoE to all those devices through the FortiGate out over diverse DIAs to the gateway. So the tunnel goes back to the data center, and the voice comes back to AireSpring, and their cloud connection goes up to Azure, like that. And that's all doable, all secure. But the key thing is they're getting their reports, and they know it's secure, and everything does happen. The alerts are there. So Ellen, that's all I had to do. Oh, I have one more though. I forgot the one I want. And for me to talk business, this is important because now the LAN network and the whole secure wide area network is the business of the company. It's no longer an edge. It is the business. So The outcomes of putting in the secure LAN, the secure SD branch, AireSpring Fortinet solution, is you're going to be secure and efficient. We're going to be shutting that. We don't know who that iPhone on. They're not on the list. You're not getting on. They're going to call and complain. Why are you trying to get on? That's the new rules and so forth. The cost, the monthly cost of coming with AireSpring with the one bill, that monthly MRC where you're leasing it all as a service, that's your predictable cost. And if you do need new features, that's all, you've got an eyeglass looking down the future that if I do need these new Fortinet features, I can get them at a decent, at a predictable, decent cost, and upgrading the product as we go forward. At the same time, the knock and sock are taken care of. This is the case where we reduce complexity with AI, artificial intelligence. So now we know the difference. When a loop goes down from packet loss, we're not going to send that to the SOC, it goes to the NOC. When we're getting a port scanning of certain phone devices, that doesn't go to the NOC, that goes to the SOC. So that alone, the AI is going to make the humans more efficient. And of course, this is all done and brought to you by AireSpring and through our engaged partnership with Fortinet, who once again are keeping on that leading edge with their multi-gig products, totally secure with all that product under one silo, single vendor solution. Ellen, questions time.
Yes, thank you, Chuck. So, folks, if you have a question, you thought of something while Chuck was presenting, please enter it into the question window, and Chuck will answer that live. Um, Chuck, explain to people what the Engage Fortinet Expert Partner is exactly, and
Oh,
how many,
okay.
if you know offhand, how many people we do
Oh,
have certified at AireSpring. I know it's the number is always going up.
well, it is to be an engaged partner of so many people inside our company at different levels of the company, salespeople, managed service engineers, network architects. They all have to get certain levels of Fortinet training. Now, the good news is for that individual is that training goes on their own personal resume, which is gold this day and age. Sorry, it is. But at the same time, for the company to be an expert level, we have to have so many in each. Like example, the whole solutions engineering team, and they are what they call FCA and FCF approved, as well as most of us are FCP trained as well. And these are Fortinet acronyms for their different levels, where you all go all the way up to Fortinet FCSS SASE training. That we have two people are that at that level. In the company in Fortinet training from sales, I would say there's at least, I would say between 30 to 45 people that are trained on different levels and different expertise in there. Like for us to sell the Wi-Fi access point, Chuck has to go to Wi-Fi access training and technical training, or I'm not allowed to talk about it. That's just common sense. Yeah. So, but with that expert though, since that level we are at, the corporate SC that I talk to at Fortinet, he is also an FCS top thing. So our experts talk to their experts, whether it be on the sales or post sales. And that basically means our nerds are talking to their nerds and everything's working fine, hopefully. But yeah, but it's a good program. I enjoy it. Get to work with Rocky and his team.